Hello and welcome to Welcome Home Radio. The waters in the mortgage industry can be pretty muddy, whether it's investing, leasing, renting, home insurance, or myths and misconceptions. Welcome Home Radio has the answers for you, the consumer. And now, to help you make the right home buying decision for you and your family, here are your hosts.
Good afternoon and welcome to Welcome Home Radio. It is Wednesday, the 18th of November, about a week and a day before Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. So we got a small crew today. Here I am. It's good to be here. Tom Hume will be joining us soon. Blair is off and about, taking care of some other things today. So we're gonna talk about real estate lending and learning. First thing I wanted to talk about is, hi Dave, how are you doing, bud? So first thing I want to kind of talk about was, it seems like COVID is back a little bit, and I want to kind of talk about that and how it relates to what we do here at the Welcome Home Radio Show, which is, again, real estate, lending, and learning. I actually know people that have COVID right now. It is back somewhat. And it looks like other states are starting to have restrictions and shutdowns, and we might be going backwards a little bit as far as that goes. Here locally in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I've not seen anything majorly change other than the numbers have gone up, most likely due to testing. Now, how does all that relate to real estate? Well, first off, if you remember when COVID got started back in February, March, earlier this year, we had what we call essential businesses. Real estate is going to continue to be an essential business. And why is that? Well, first off, we all need a place to live, no matter what's going on. Second, it's a major, major factor in the economy. And to kill real estate really is going to make it almost impossible to come back from any economic downturn. So it is very essential. There's a couple of examples. There's current deals that are going on. People are in the pending period where they bought the home and they're waiting to close on it until the lender can lend and they can close. They're in limbo. So they might be selling another home and not have a place to live if they can't buy the one they're going to buy. So they're gonna continue to allow us to be essential, and I count that as a blessing. So we're going to continue to be able to make a living. We have restrictions, of course, mask and, washing. Being a realtor involves in going on other people's houses, and you have to respect that. So we have our protocols that we follow, and we try to do a good job whenever we can on that. So I think the interesting part is, the election is over now, or well, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's not over now. I don't know. But anyway, have all the votes been counted? I don't think so, but they're working on it. But it looks like Vice President Biden is President-elect Biden now, and so I think a lot of people are okay. We're wore out by the whole process. We're done with the ads. We're tired of it all. We want to move on, and moving on includes the things that we're talking about, especially the real estate part. So, along with real estate, financial services. Which is, mortgage, title, and that is 3 other services. Blair Thomas is a lender, and when we're on the show together, he talks about the lending aspect of it. Well, the lending goes right in line with the real estate, as does title. The title companies that we've had on the show in the past, I can tell you for a fact, they're very busy right now. In fact, the real estate market remains very busy. I would say maybe a slight slowdown, but then again, it is Thanksgiving and Christmas is around the corner. But the 3 aspects of real estate, the lending and the title, I think are going to remain very solid. And again, I'm happy that it will be an essential service. There's a couple other things going on along with the COVID thing. Was doing some reading, and it looks like foreclosure filings are on the rise. This might be more of a Blair topic, but as a real estate agent, I help investors buy homes, and they often target homes that are in foreclosure. They bring cash to the deal. Banks like cash, and investors have cash, and so those two go together. But it's kind of a pretty sharp increase. October of this year, filings climbed. Filings climbed 20% compared to September figures. So there's a lot that goes into that. Of course, people have lost jobs, which means they've lost wages, and they've maybe gone on unemployment, and they're trying to feed their families, and having a hard time with the payments. So that's part of it. The other part is a lot of folks don't know what to do when they don't have money. They just assume, okay, well, they're going to foreclose on us and we'll move on, we'll rent, or we'll do whatever. So there's a lot of that going on too. But struggling homeowners do have help. And I think what we're going to do maybe next week or the week after, we're going to talk about exactly what the help is for a homeowner that is currently struggling to maintain their home payments. Again, it'd be nice to have Blair into that conversation as a lender. And the folks that follow this show and have seen our other guests, we've actually had people on the show that help people who struggle with that get that fixed. So that's going to be a topic for an upcoming show. But the good part about it, I guess if there is a good part, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we're not part of the major increase in that. Our market continues strong. The biggest markets with the largest foreclosure starts last month were New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Miami, and the closest to Dallas-Fort Worth in Houston. These big metro areas have a lot in common. Their metropolitan area unemployment's pretty high right now, and so that's a big part of it. So also COVID in the metro areas is a very it's going on too. So that all adds into it. COVID, high unemployment in a major market, all goes into the fact that foreclosures would be at a higher rate there. And I think we're having. Oh, there he is. Hi, Tom. How are you, bud?
I'm sneaking in.
You are. Welcome.
That or I'm going to rob you. Oh, there he is.
Well, let me try to look old. Maybe you'll feel sorry for me.
Whoa, that's an old look.
There you go. That's what Ben Franklin looked.
Kind of.
Kind of. Yeah.
He had longer hair.
Yes, he did. Well, yeah, he did. So what we did, we started off the show a little bit talking just in general about the fact that our services are going to remain essential. I just got an update on that from National Association of Realtors. They feel pretty strong that no matter what, and this is national, not just Dallas-Fort Worth, they feel pretty strong that real estate will still be considered essential should the need go on to lock down certain things again, along with title and mortgage. So that, I guess, is a positive if you're in that particular business. And their reasoning is logical. Housing drives, it's a big factor in the market of the United States of America. So
pretty big.
To kill housing during a pandemic, it's just going to make it that much harder to come out of a pandemic financially. So looks like they're going to leave us alone, continue to be essential, again, along with mortgage and title. So that's a good thing. We also discussed a little bit about the fact that foreclosures are on the rise, and pretty strongly, 20% climb in October compared to September.
20% climb. And is that now physical, actual foreclosures?
They're filing.
Filing. Okay. Yeah. Filing. Okay.
Yeah, and it's a pretty big number, I thought. But again, it's logical the way they're wording it. It is a threat to home ownership with the pandemic going on, the loss of jobs, the high rate of the sickness of COVID in metropolitan areas. And again, that seems to be where this is coming from mainly. And the closest area to us that's having a very high number of filings is Houston. The others are New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Miami. So that's that. I have told the folks and maintain, yes, there are foreclosure filings here too, but from what I feel and see and experience, Dallas-Fort Worth is plodding along very well as far as real estate goes. Would you agree?
Well, and I know we were going to talk about this, and I've been thinking about, the transparency piece about foreclosures in this particular area. There's still so much demand that even if you are having trouble making a payment, you could do what?
What that if you're having trouble making a payment, what?
If in Dallas-Fort Worth, if I was having trouble making a payment, I could still what? Sell my house.
Well, yeah, there's options there depending on.
Because there's equity in the house. So our foreclosure rate intrinsically, because we're kind of so artificially overpriced, I give that example of my neighbor that I've been giving for the last 8 months. It took him 8 months to sell his house. Why? Well, he needed to do work on it, and it was overpriced by a ton.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I need you to look it up and see what he sold that for. But that's another subject all to itself.
Happy to help.
With that being said, though, it does kind of go back and express too the fact that everybody has equity in their house, so it's hard to get foreclosed on unless you're just totally head in the sand. I can't deal with it.
Yeah, I mean,
do you ever come in contact with somebody I remember during the bad old days of finding people that just weren't willing to talk about it, weren't willing to do it. It's shameful. I can't believe I'm getting foreclosed on. This is something my parents beat in my head. Never lose your house, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, in 2000, I want to say 7 and 8.
Yeah.
It was a daily thing. I mean, I was working a lot as a realtor. You have to diverse. And so I was working a lot with investors. And, another thing we talked about just before you got here is the investor plays a very important part in all this because they bring cash. And banks are very bad at selling houses. They're bankers. They're not house sellers. So that process can, depending on the bank, man, it's anywhere from 2 months to a year on how fast they'll process it. And back then, the lists were thick. There was piles of foreclosures on bank desk, and you talk to somebody in charge of a particular property you're interested in, they're like, I didn't get to that one yet. So, but right now, in talking to the public, most people do have equity when I go to sell their house. Not 100%. There are some of the younger folks who have done a good job. They bought their first house when they were 24, 25, met somebody, and now they want to buy a bigger house, but they haven't had their house for a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens. I just went through that. And
reminding our listeners out there, if you haven't owned a home in the last 3 years, you're what?
Well, you're missing out on a lot of equity.
You're missing out on a lot of equity, but you're also considered a first-time home buyer, so you may have special monies available to you.
Well, and that's the other thing. There is a lot of good money out there again. For a while we lost some of, and this is Blair's category, I guess. We lost some of our incentives for people for a while, but a lot of them are back, and the financing thing is one of the reasons the market continues high. I mean, it's in my lifetime, I've never seen anything like this. And I don't
catch this on a $200,000 house. I can give you a 3.25% interest rate, and I can give you $10,000 towards your cost to buy that house.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
What is that?
I bought my first home. It was at 14 and a quarter, and we got a tree in the front. We got grass in the front. We got no grass in the back. And it was like unbelievable. So I think the way things are right now, if you're going to buy, oh my goodness, it's a great time to do it. And
Yeah.
I just, inventory remains a issue here, especially in the $200,000 to $300,000 range. Very difficult to secure one for your buyer. If you have a listing, it's a good thing. And if the house is in great shape, it goes immediately. I just had one that was, in pretty decent shape, but I wouldn't say perfect. Took 2 days, and boom, we got it under contract. So somebody's trash is somebody's treasure, no matter what price range you're in. That's the way real estate is. But
Was the house priced in order to be able to do the fix up?
everything worked out perfect. We were only $2,000 off on the appraisal, so it was wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah. So, again, and we'll just skip over a little bit, but you have to prepare your clients. That's what a realtor should do. You prepare your clients. You bring them good information, flat out truthful information, and you tell them consequences of decisions and things like that. And
I thought it was better to lie to them.
well, believe it or not, in all business, there is some of that. I, for one, hate that.
True confessions.
I hate that. Nothing drives me worse than having to deal with things that aren't true, and it's just drives you nuts. But when this can be very simple if you just educate your client and stay with them along the way, and stay with her along the way, and go with the flow. And you hit ups and downs in this, and certainly doing a lot of them, and but they work out, and that's the fun part of the business. So, how's things in the teaching end of it? Class is full, half full. How you doing?
Well, let's talk education here.
Yeah.
I know we've got listeners out there that are thinking about getting into the mortgage business. I will tell you the hot business to get into is appraisal. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, if that is something, and now you have to have a personality that fits that profession. Somewhat engineerish. In other words, you're wanting to analyze figures. You want to do detail work like measurements and comparison of types of finishes and grades. And so there's some subjective piece to it as well. But those people that are getting into the profession, there's a huge demand for them right now.
Yeah, and it's no matter how long you're in any business, you can always learn something. And man, I learned a lot about appraisals. I had no idea that when you start out as an appraiser, it was like it was. I had no idea. I've known appraisers that are also realtors. I didn't know that was possible. But yeah, it is. But the things I've learned about the appraising business by having, we've had appraisers on here, and I've since been asking questions. If an appraiser happens to call me about anything, I'll pull them over to the side conversation and ask about their business in general. And it is so true. They have to kind of go through it for about a year and learn the ropes. Kind of like you start in the kitchen before you get out and be a maitre d'. You got to know everything.
You start as a dishwasher.
Yeah. So I really have learned to respect appraising because of that. It's my belief you learn how to do something well by starting at the beginning and experiencing the business on the way up, as opposed to, grandma or grandpa or mom or dad doing the business and then handing it over to the kids that don't really know the business. So I kind of respect that other way. And the appraisers, they work hard to be an appraiser.
They do. They work very hard to be the appraiser, and they've got, there's a certain amount of pressure on that person. Now, I won't say the pressure comes from the real estate community or the lenders. It better not. So I'll make that clarification, but there's timelines. They know that people are relying on them to get their opinion back in a certain amount of time so they can close successfully on their house. And, they have pressure because they've got to go into homes that could be perhaps considered maybe a hotbed for COVID or something of that nature. So they have to be and exercise all the precautions. I've seen actually and had in my class a couple of people that said the appraisers, some of them will do a Zoom conference with the seller and the seller will walk them around the house and show them condition of the house. Now, I thought that was pretty strange, but because
you remember when I told you I forget the letter number, but I had an appraisal. It was a COVID letter exempting the appraiser from even going to the house.
Yep.
For that conversation?
Yeah, I remember you saying about that as well.
Well, and that appraisal went horrible.
You think?
It appraised horribly.
You think?
Yeah. And so
next time you get one of those letters, let's choose another appraiser. We'll now extend the contract for an extra week or 10 days and give them time to find somebody that is comfortable coming to. And that's part of the learning curve, because you would think, well, it shouldn't matter. It's still that it's going to reflect the condition of the property. I mean, you got all the reasoning behind that says this shouldn't be an issue, but it is. Not having a live human being in the property is a big deal.
It's a huge deal. And you're exactly right. As long as I've done this, I've never been exposed to that. And I, benefit of the doubt, maybe the person is sick or can't go there or whatever. I don't know what the deal was. But from now on, when I get that, there will be a phone call to whoever I have to call.
Yeah.
We're going to discuss
call the lender and say, look, we'll give you more time. We want a real human being in here.
And I had talked to my client, and fortunately it was a client who, bought many investment properties with me over the years, and, was just ready to unload it and could do that. And so it worked out fine.
And you didn't call me?
No.
Oh, thanks, Alan.
We were already.
I must be on your Christmas card list.
Remember, we were under contract at a pretty high price, which you wouldn't have enjoyed.
Oh, over $250.
Still a little higher than what an investor would have paid. So, but
good for you.
It's a deal where next time I will be on the phone, and that's what I always tell folks. When I talk to them about any subject, live and learn. You do learn as you go. And this COVID thing is it's literally changing the world on how the world does business.
Oh, yeah.
And if you equate that to what's the biggest business in the world, well, arguably it's housing, because there's no exceptions. Everybody has to live somewhere. So it's up there.
Well, you again, asking about the education part, the appraisal folks, I see an increase in demand for that industry. I see an increase as far as their pay structures. I see an increase with regards to their ability to be more directive in how they want to do things. And in some cases, of course, we run into the circumstances where, appraiser can't get to a house for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And so they're doing this on their schedule, on their time frames. They're doing it according to, we're seeing it more now being affected by the market conditions and how that changes, and try and make that adjustment for our sellers when we list houses, getting them ready for that thought process. Things are different. Yeah, I know 4 years ago, we were able to get an appraiser over there in 3 days and blah, blah, blah. That may not be the case in your circumstance, depending on the mortgage company, depending on the appraiser themselves. Now,
yeah, and that's a great point, because, a lot of things involve marketing, and part of marketing for different companies is a quick appraisal. Be it a realtor saying, I work with a lender who can do an appraisal fast. Well, if you're new in real estate, if you're new in lending, if you're new in learning, learn this. Nobody can make that promise. Nobody can make that promise. I guess if you squeak the wheel a little bit, enough money can do about anything in the world. But in general, appraisers are flat out busy. And you were so right about if somebody wants to get in the business, what a career to pick, because that is job security plus 5.
It really is. It will have a hold for a while to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Now, on the other pursuits, again, home inspectors, those classes are pretty full. So we're seeing a lot of people, and I think this is kind of a reflection of people wanting to see themselves more independent, and anything in real estate, as you are aware of, you're pretty much self-employed. I know that as lenders, you have to work for a company, but you're still dependent on your ability to create and generate income. So we're seeing a lot more entrepreneurial spirit being executed. And I think when times do get tough, that is a lot of what we see in the U.S. In a capitalistic society, their door is always open. And so sometimes when one door closes, you say, okay, what door is this opening to me? And real estate becomes that answer. And I know with my classes that I'm teaching, I'm seeing people with not as much background in real estate. They haven't owned real estate. They haven't invested in real estate, but they know the end run is that if they were to get good at it, then they would be independently able to do this for the rest of their life. And that's one of the things that, of course, with anybody in any of these pursuits, that entrepreneurial spirit, if it's in you and you have the capacity and ability to communicate and, manage your own time, you don't have to have somebody tell you, at 8:30 start this project, at 10:30 I want it back, at 11. I mean, you got to internally have that clock, that voice saying, I can do this. If those things are part of your personality, it is a wonderful time to get in real estate.
Yeah, I agree. Like a lot of jobs, real estate has its issues. It's a misunderstood business. You can't. Oh my God, realtors make a killing. I'm going to be a realtor. Well, it's a tough job. It really is. You have to understand it. You have to learn with it. You have to use the forms the lawyers create to protect you and your endeavors. And there's a lot of expense with being a real estate agent. A lot. Dues and all these other things you have to pay to everybody, to have keys, to have this, to have that. And so it's not a cheap business to do. And I think a lot of people get in it and realize, I've already spent $3,000 and I didn't even have anybody to sell anything.
I don't have my first buyer.
Right. And it's certainly a tough thing. So there's a pretty high turnover rate in real estate. There really is.
Yeah, that's true.
On the other hand, if you can get it going and hang in there a couple of years, then chances are you can make it a living as long as you want to. So you have to deal with the economy too. 2007 and 8 were not fun. Not fun at all. I mean, that was 2 years. And you have to diversify big time. But, it's good to see people interested in real estate. It's a fun thing to do once you get at it and get good at it and you like it. And so it's good to hear a lot of people are in your class taking the classes. And I had a quick question for you about inspectors. How long does it take to become, what kind of background? I know in real estate, you have to have, so many hours. If you have a college degree, that helps. If you don't, you have to take more hours in a class. So how does the inspection thing work?
Well, there's, first off, the classes are extremely involved. There's about 270 hours of class time that you actually have to invest. That doesn't even count the 2,000 hours that you have to have of practicum. In other words, going with somebody, assisting, drive along type environments where you're inspecting a house with somebody that's already approved as a home inspector with their certification that can sign off on those apprentice hours. So you're talking about, legitimately, what's that, 50 weeks?
That's a long time. Yeah.
That's a long time. So when you said earlier about a year, as far as usually the apprenticeship lasts about 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
Yeah, and during that time, you are making a minimal type of income to learn that business. So it's expensive to get into the business. I do appreciate, you talking about the cost of being a real estate professional realtor, but the inspectors and the people that do appraisals, there's additional tools they have to get. There's additional software that they have to buy. So again, you've got an investment. It's like opening a cupcake place. I mean, you got to have pans to cook in. Well, that's what we're talking about with regards to the home inspectors. But man, it is a grind.
That parallels appraisals. I got the 1 year from our guest a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
In her opinion, she thought it was going to be reduced to a year. To attract more talent.
Well, and that is something we see those changes coming slowly but surely to because the demand's such that, they're saying, well, we need to back off and make this more accessible and make this a little bit easier to do. So there is a trade-off with that realization. Absolutely.
So when it comes to learning, and I know you deal with the facts and the books and the quizzes and the tests and things like that. And I'm sure people ask you general questions because of your experience and your knowledge, having been a realtor and you are an investor. So and I'm talking realtors now, do they pick your brain as to, Tom, where do you see real estate going? I mean, the models are changing. I recently changed, and the models of real estate are changing along with a lot of other businesses. So do they ask you based on your experience, or do you just stay out of that, and once they're done, let them go where they want to go? And do they ask your advice?
Very good question. I'll be honest that in all my classes, I always give my email address. My phone number hasn't changed in 25 years.
Has it got all the digits, 10 of them, or is it 7?
I will absolutely. I mean, I used to have the same number on my big old block that I use. So the fact is, do I get phone calls out of the blue randomly? And because of the Zoom thing, of course, I'm now teaching people in San Antonio and Austin and Houston. So, I mean, my reach has expanded to the point where I tell people in my class that this is an ongoing deal. And the reason I've chosen to be a real estate educator is because I've been down the path that they've been down. And if they want my opinion, of course, it costs them 2 cents, sometimes a cup of coffee. But I'm always willing to be there for our students. And that's something I extend for the lifetime of them, myself being in the business. I think that's, one of the gifts that I've been able to give, that I don't sell houses actively or do financing actively anymore, but I'm an active investor. I still own real estate that way. I bought a house out in Tyler not just too long ago. So, I mean, I'm open to, different opportunities as long as they make money. And I talk about that because it's important for me to understand to kind of, and I think what's impressed with most of the people that call me, they know I walk the walk. And that's important to do when you're teaching an investment class, is to talk about some of the challenges and how the market's changed. And I know the flip and flop people right now, that's hard to do. It's hard to find a house that's even in crappy condition. Well, you buy it in crappy condition with the idea that you're going to fix it up, and you haven't done that in the last year. And suddenly you go out and find out wood has doubled in price, and you find out the labor being charged to you is up 25%. And I mean, it freaks you out when you get into these environments where you may have a track record or background, and that hasn't been calculated into the cost of making that house better to flip. And that's a tough thing. That's a really, really hard thing for people to understand and express to other people unless you're living that going down that path. You know, I was kind of taken. I knew I was going to have to do work on this house in Tyler, and it cost me probably 15% more than I was planning on spending. That was still within the budgetary arrangement and allowances that, you know, I'd set up, but it's still kind of a kick in the pants when you go, woo, I can't believe that flooring costs, woo. You're suddenly your margins narrow. And so the goal for that house, instead of flipping it, became I'm going to keep it. So,
yeah, and I think it's an interesting time, you know, when you've been in the business a while. I'm finding more people calling and asking advice on different things with me too.
what you do?
It's not just about prices or availabilities or buying and selling. Now it's about, you know, I'm real evaluating my future. Where do I want to be? And, you know, and I'll tell you what came up, and that's from other realtors sometimes. The other thing that comes up, the clients in the last week, you know what I've been asked about 5 times?
How tall are you?
No, they all know I'm 7'3" of all solid muscle.
How old you are?
44 and looking better every day. So, and I never lie either. Told you.
Never. So, and your nose isn't getting bigger or longer right now at all.
Hang on a minute. We'll fix that too. So, but they know out of the blue, here comes title insurance. Okay. So they're like listening to the radio. David, we're going to get to your point in just a second. That's a great point too. Out of the blue, they're hearing commercials from people about, do you know that somebody can get into your deed and do a quick, you know, digitally alter it and put you in debt with your home and stuff, you know?
Oh, well, I don't even have to digitally alter it. I can go file one against your house right now if I wanted to. Matter of fact, I'm going to do that right after I get finished here.
Okay, good. So, of course, after hearing it all that time, I went right to my buddy, the real estate attorney. And he had some great solutions for that. And how what these services offer is to make you aware of it. Somebody is trying, they don't do anything about it. They make you aware of it. It's not like
it's not an insurance policy.
No, it's not like the credit people where we have $1 million to fight that and blah, blah, blah. This is just to make you aware that Tom is after me, you know, and then it's up to me to fix Tom. So, but anyway, I think that's one of the
worried suddenly, Mr. 7'4" person.
That's one of the, well, it was very concerning, but then the real estate guy settled me down, the attorney. So anyway, we're going to have him on the show sometime to talk about things like that because
good guest to bring forward. Yeah,
and we're going to get him on here, and he's willing to do it. So he's from your neck of the woods too, so you probably know the name when I say it. So that said, we'll get him on, and we'll get the name out there when he agrees to do it. So until then, I'll keep quiet. So,
okay.
But the thing is, don't panic, everybody. You don't need to run out and buy this service and do all that, but we'll have a solution for that soon. So David typed in when you were talking about, he says, great points, Tom. Buying a fixer-upper is challenging, especially with labor shortage and rising costs of supplies, which I think you touched on. And that equates into new construction as well. I did a walkthrough yesterday on new construction, and they are way behind. Their lumber prices are going up, and their labor has been very inconsistent due to a labor shortage and COVID.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's just a different way to do business now, I think, in all aspects of the business. Interesting.
Well, and not to belabor a point, but it's hard to have a crystal ball in real estate. It just really is.
Yep.
You can see trends, you can see things that are, moving, but real estate's a slow moving animal. It's definitely not a jackrabbit. It changes and things have to build up for it to change. And that's why we keep talking to our listeners about the possibility in the spring of seeing that figure you gave me earlier about foreclosures suddenly having jumped. And that type of thing is slow to build, but when it happens, it's like, uh-oh, it's beginning.
Yeah, when you say jackrabbit, I always think of sledgehammer. Because wherever there's a jackrabbit, you bet your butt there's a sledgehammer not too far away.
Right.
You take a market like San Francisco or Dade County, Florida, when the 2006 thing hit, that $2 million home was $1 million.
Yep.
In Dallas, the $300,000 home was $250.
Yeah.
$260. That's more the tortoise than the hare. But
yep.
if you're in a jackrabbit market, you're also in a sledgehammer market.
That's right.
That's just the way I believe things are in real estate.
Yeah. I'd say that's a pretty accurate assumption as well.
Yep. So the other thing on the learning part of it, in general, are your numbers up or are they average or are they down?
Very good. Very good question. We'll see this year probably more students this year than we've ever had. Now, I don't know how November and December play out. Those are usually a little bit slower months for the school. But enrollment at this stage, I would say we've seen an uptick of about 10 to 15% this year. And I can only say that from my personal standpoint that my class size has increased to that level. And, the schools made these accommodations. We're back to in-person learning, albeit a very limited environment. And by that, the class size is limited according to the space in the room. There's no more than one person per table. It's 6 foot distancing. I still get students that come in and they know they have to wear a mask and they use a chin strap instead, and I have to kind of explain to them that's not doing what you're wearing that for. I don't care about your ugly chin. I care about your ugly nose. So,
and you're not going to be a good realtor if you're cheating already.
Well, and that's hard to explain to them that unfortunately there are lots of rules you have to follow, and these aren't the rules of courtesy or politics or anything else. This is the rules of courtesy about how you treat people, and you got to be respectful of those circumstances. And I hate getting into that type of lecture, but real life instruction has come back, but it only can be done and successful if we all comply with what we do. And we've had to close one of our schools down because of exposure. And there's nothing worse than somebody having planned to. I finally got an opportunity. I've been holding off to get live instruction, and that's the best environment. And some people, that's the only environment. I mean, it's not just the best environment. It is the only environment. People have hard time with this relationship. I mean, I can get up in your face when I'm teaching a class and say, okay, listen to me now. But at the same time, it still feels a lot different than the cadence and the tonality and the ability the physicality of teaching somebody live and in class. So at Champions, we're extremely proud of the fact that we've always been the largest provider of live of education in the state of Texas. And we've done that for years and years and years. And we continue to do that even in these times. But everybody's got to realize that it's got to be different. It just is. And we love to see our live folks here. I love being back in the class. Matter of fact, that's where I am today. That's why Lincoln's not behind me. I've got this shiny picture with the light that I realize doesn't have a cover on it anymore. But
I wanted to ask you this too, and I've always wondered it, but I've never asked it, and I don't know if it's relevant or not. Probably isn't. But does a company like Champion, do they have any stats on success rates on people, or because I've always wondered about that. I know that you compete with the online marketers.
Yep.
There's 50 of them out there at any given time,
Yep.
all accredited, and so is that something that is tracked?
Yep. Track does that. Now they do it for only one profession, the real estate realtors. They don't do it for loan originators because that would be a federal type deal and keeping track of it. But Trek, as far as passes rates and that type of deal for real estate professionals, it is kept. And, that is one of our points of emphasis. We've actually changed some of the way we teach curriculum, our prep class, and that to try to keep that rate up above everybody else's. We find out simply because of the sheer number of people. I mean, we have more people that get licensed than any other educational group anywhere.
Wow.
So that's a real pat on the back. But percentage-wise, we still have the challenges that, and I don't have the most recent. Otherwise, I would actually. That's a good question. I don't want to quote something. I'm not with hands-on current rates, but that is located, and you can realize that by contacting Trek. They send out that report on a monthly basis.
Yeah, good.
And so we're one of the largest pass rates, but it's still below what the expectation would be. And you might find a school that has a 78 or 85% pass rate, and they had 15 students the whole year.
Wow.
So that might mean that 12 out of the 15 passed. Well, that's a lot different than us with 16,000 enrollees per year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I asked, because I always thought it's a great marketing tool. You can say, listen, we have a success rate, this, and that. But so I'm glad I asked that. But I want to end the show today on this note and let the folks know that we're open to conversation. We're open to subjects, but you can expect in the future us talking everything from real estate law, of which we're going to have an attorney on soon. We've got appraisers that we've had on in the past, and we're open to any subject that has to do with anything about real estate, any aspect of it. As you just heard Tom explain what he does, nobody better at that. He's been through it, been there, done that. And it's great and I learn from him, which is impossible. I learn from somebody. It's greatness.
Really?
Yeah, I'm actually learning, which is wonderful. And then Blair will be back with us next week, and he is a wonderful lender, a DD 214 specialist for the veterans. I've personally worked with him many times, and I've had veterans that I've helped buy homes work with him, and it's a great experience. So,
and we privately call him what? Snaggletooth now?
Yeah, unless he wears his glasses, then I call him Mr. Thomas. So we appreciate everybody coming on today, and look forward to seeing you next week at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time on Wednesday. My name's Alan Pace, and I'm a realtor in North Texas.
And I'm Tom Holm. I'm an instructor for Champion School of Real Estate for the state of Texas. And we appreciate you. God bless. You guys have a great week. We're getting towards Thanksgiving, and all my Thanksgiving prayers are with people. Stay safe. Take care of your elderly folks that you're going to go see. If you do go see them, do it only with a great deal of caution. And we're going to get through this. We kind of, I think, see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that should be cheering for people. Let's just put up with it a little bit longer. And we may be able to get there and get things back to semi-normal, but maybe not like normal like we used to know.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's a great way to end it. Nothing more need be said. Goodbye, everybody. See you next week. Thank you.